That's my father.
The man beside him is Howland Reed, Mira's father.
You're leaving?
I don't want to leave you, but when they come, I need to be with my family. You're safe. You're as safe as anyone can be now. You don't need me anymore.
No, I don't.
Hey everybody, so I've gotten a lot of requests to do videos for Howland and Mira Reed, because obviously we know that Jojen is dead, but Mira Reed is a fairly big character in the story right now, and Howland Reed is just another big character that the show has chosen not to do so far. There are a lot of theories about what they might include in Season 8, but if you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're doing Game of Thrones till Season 8 gets here. Obviously there'll be a bunch of book stuff once it drops, and there is a giveaway that I'll explain at the end of the video. The first rule of Tower of Joy Club is that you do not talk about Tower of Joy. So really, we only know of Howland Reed, what we saw in the flashbacks, and what Mira has said. Part of the reason for that big long scene in episode 4 of season 7 was sort of Mira's goodbye on the TV show. Now there's like the theory that she could show up again during season 8, but Ellie Kendrick, the actress, has booked a couple jobs for projects that are dropping in 2018, meaning that she'll be filming those while they're filming Game of Thrones season 8. So usually my policy is to never say never, but it does look like there's a very strong possibility that we'll never see her again on the TV show. In some of the dialogue during that scene, like, "You don't need me anymore. No, I don't need you anymore." Bran being such a huge dick to her was a way for the show to tell you in no uncertain terms that they really didn't need her anymore, and she was just going off to Greywater Watch down in the south to be with her family. The only Howland Reed in present day that we've gotten so far has been anecdotally through Mira and Jojen when they first met up with Bran and Osha and tried to explain who they were and why they had shown up. Jojen had been having the visions, Mira was his protector, so she was just sort of along for the ride, like, I trust my brother, so I'm going to help him fulfill this thing that he says needs to happen. But that's really about it. During the course of events in Season 1, when Robb Stark finds out what happens to Ned and calls his bannermen and the War of the Five Kings starts heating up, he sends word down to Howland Reed in the Neck saying, just bleed any Lannisters dry that try to make it north up to Winterfell. So in the flashback, once they defeat Arthur Dayne here and Ned Stark runs up and learns about what's going on with Jon Snow and Lyanna Rhaegar Targaryen, you see Howland Reed in the background here picking over the bodies, trying to see if anybody is still alive. They took the baby, Arthur Dayne's sword, because Ned was an honorable man, took the sword back to Starfall to Ashara Dayne. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about Ashara Dayne, especially before they revealed the full truth of the Tower of Joy, because she's said to have thrown herself off the battlements of Starfall at their castle after Ned Stark told her what happened, but it's always possible that he revealed the full truth and then she just pretended to die so that she could hide out so that nobody would try to get it out of her, because she was the lady-in-waiting to Elia Martell, so most of her friends and the people that she served had just died. So it's always possible that in her grief, she did kill herself. I don't think there was any foul play involved in her death. But then Ned Stark just returned back to Winterfell. Howland Reed peeled off when they got to the Neck. He went back to Greywater Watch, assumed his seat and his duties of just making sure that the area was secure. Had a family. You have Jojen and Mira Reed that come along later. And that's really all that Martin says about him until you get to the War of the Five Kings, where he's just basically patrolling the Neck. But I think part of the idea is that they went back north. He probably had suspicions about what Ned Stark saw in the Tower of Joy. He probably didn't reveal anything official about Rhaegar Targaryen. He wasn't discreet, said, "This is exactly what my sister Lyanna told me. This is the promise she extracted from me." Howland Reed probably made some guesses about what he saw up there when he saw the baby come down. Oh, that baby is probably Rhaegar Targaryen's. But I think it's safe to assume that Ned Stark extracted a promise of silence from him, like he ordered him to go to the Neck and just hang out there. Tell no one of what happened here. We will never speak of it again. And sure enough, he never spoke of it. Even to Catelyn Stark, she said that any time that she would bring the matter up, he said that he would not speak of it. So you have to imagine 15, 16 years go by, they have Robb Stark, Jon Snow, the rest of their children. He still refuses to talk of it to present day, which is why she treats Jon Snow so badly, because she just assumes that he's a bastard. He came back from the War of Rebellion with this babe, so she naturally just put two and two together the way that anybody would. You come back with a baby, oh, this is probably a bastard that you had while you were at war. But until we learned we were getting the Bran flashbacks, a lot of people just felt like Howland Reed was the ace in the hole. Oh, he's the guy that can show up and tell us what's going on. But I think the TV opted for the more spectacular visual reveal because there are a couple things that they've changed from the way Bran's Weirwood sight works in the books. So they can see anywhere the faces of the Weirwoods are. So if there were a Weirwood at the Tower of Joy, then he could totally flash back in the books. So the cool thing about the books is that we don't know exactly how George R. Martin is going to make that Tower of Joy reveal, only that the reveal is solid. Like, Jon Snow is the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, so we know what the end goal is going to be, but we just don't know how he's going to accomplish that. Howland Reed could be a part of that reveal, but even in the books, Howland Reed is such a minor character and has been so absent from the action that it makes sense that if Martin were going to use him for a big Tower of Joy reveal, he would have started the process of setting that up a little bit more. And most of what we learned about Rhaegar has come through Barristan Selmy and Maester Aemon. Maester Aemon did spend a lot of time when he was up at the Wall corresponding with Rhaegar during his lifetime. So during his final years, they talked a lot about dragons, about prophecies. So I have a feeling part of the reveal in the books will be made the way they did it on the TV show in some documents that people find. Documents of Maester Aemon's that are hidden somewhere, documents at the Citadel. But for now, even though you would think that Howland Reed is a relatively important character because of what he saw, it seems like his greatest importance has been in giving birth to Meera and Jojen Reed, who've played a much more important part in the story, getting Bran up to the Three-Eyed Raven. So obviously the Winds of Winter book hasn't dropped yet, so Meera Reed is still beneath the Three-Eyed Raven's Weirwood with Bran up north of the Wall. But there's a lot of big questions about her continued importance in the books because even though you have the Army of the Dead, there is no Night King that George R. Martin has written about in present day. But there is a solid chance that things go down the way they went down in the TV show, and the Army of the Dead makes their way through the enchantment and they kill the Three-Eyed Raven, and Bran has to escape with Meera. Because you have to remember that Martin revealed how Hodor got his name, and he got it holding the door as they were leaving the Weirwood to escape the Army of the Dead. So that just implies that that event will also happen in the books. But I think because Martin doesn't have a camera to worry about and like actual physical actors, Meera will stick around if they do go back to Winterfell eventually. Because they leave the Weirwood, you assume that events play out in a relatively similar way, like they make their way back down south to explain what's going on to everyone. The Army of the Dead is coming, this is what we need to do to prepare. So the funny thing is that for as different as the TV show has become from the books, there are a couple of big events that seem like they're going to play out in a similar way, even though the characters that you see at those places are going to be different. So I think in the books, Meera does stick around because she's one of the strongest characters they've introduced, and she and Bran have grown closer. And I think that they made Bran more of a dick on the TV show to make that break between the two of them feel a little bit stronger, like, oh, now she definitely has a reason to go. But by all accounts, it does look like they're never coming back on the TV show. Now, I mean, it's always possible that they could work them in for a day for a couple cameos. The Sand Snakes said that during season 7, because they wanted to kill them off in that big scene, they asked them to come back, but it was really short notice. Jessica Henwick, who plays Nymeria Sand, that she was busy shooting the Iron Fist and Defenders TV shows, and they basically called her like a couple weeks before she was getting ready to film and said, hey, do you want to come do this? We need you for a couple scenes. If you don't show up, people will wonder what happened to your character. We won't be able to explain that. But it seems like this is that version of that scene for Meera's character. So I know it makes it seem like Howland Reed is kind of a dick for not showing up and explaining to everyone, but I think that's mostly out of loyalty to Ned Stark and the promise that he made. But if he is mentioned during Winds of Winter, then we can talk a little bit more about him, because they still have to make the Tower of Joy reveal. So eventually he'll be mentioned one way or another, whether it's in flashback or in someone's memory or in a scroll. So let me know in the comments, given all the evidence you've seen so far, do you think the TV show ever mentions Howland or Meera Reed again? Even just mentions them, forget bringing them on the show. Off chance somebody mentions House Reed when they're talking about all the forces they have available to them, when they talk about their bannermen. There's a new round of the book giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on the video. Congratulations to the winner from last week, Moonlight. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. You can click here for all my Thor Ragnarok Easter eggs, and you can click here to learn all about the Targaryen prequel story. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.